Hey, Gay. Hopefully you're back. I saw Melissa here for a hot second. Maybe she'll join us. There she is. Hello.
Hello.
How's it going with your grandbaby?
Oh, good. I just got home. She was trying to convince me to come in and play. I said tomorrow. You give me a weather report in the morning, and we'll see what.
See what's going on. What you're
Right.
up to. Oh.
Protect my time today.
So, what we move on to now, we're going to drop the weights of the feel in and the feel out. Hopefully you took copious notes about all the feels. We talked about feel in, feel out. We talked about ways of sort of labeling what's happening in the internal feel in emotional state, etc., etc. Ways to experience that and ways to own your own experience, etc. And what you've noticed is that as you begin to tweeze out and just work on those particular muscles, the feels, awareness of the feels, and just notice them, sit with them, be with them, they begin to open and clarify as per nature. The nature is change, the nature is flow and movement. And sometimes, even within the field states, you'll feel a sense of rest, no movement at all. That's what we just moved from. So now, let us begin talking about the auditory sense, hearing externally and hearing internally. This will be very familiar. It won't take as long to unpack this as it did the first one, because you're familiar with the terms in and out already. Out is your outside yourself, external environment, or perhaps within your body. You might hear your belly gurgling. That's still a hear out. The hear ins are internal dialogue, usually in English, etc. So let's talk about the auditory sense when there's a hear out and the subtleties of that. And then we'll talk about the hear in, the internal sense of hearing. And then we'll have a little mini experience. And then we'll talk about that. And then we'll have a bigger experience. Then we'll be onward into a break after that. Sure. Before I launch in, are there any questions thus far? Anything that you need cleared up before we move into the hear space, the auditory space? No, we're good. All right. Hear out is what you might imagine. Right now, I can hear myself talking. That's a hear out. I can hear the air conditioner in the background. And if I really pay attention, there are other subtle sounds that I can also hear. Music, airplanes above. You could potentially hear even something as subtle as a bird's wings flapping, which sometimes if it's really still outside, it's not so silent at all. flappa, flappa, flappa. Those are the hear outs. Hear out in terms of language is something we're most familiar with, another human voice or an animal sound, an animal voice, a sound of a different language or a different tongue from a human. Animals pretty much speak the same language no matter what continent they're on within species. So it seems, or so we believe, who knows really. Any other kind of sound, sound of the modern era, sounds of 2021, and what are those? The hum of computers and computer fans. Definitely trains, planes, and automobiles. Specific hums of your phone, of your air purifier, maybe of your fluorescent lights. Those were all hear outs, no matter how subtle or how grand the boom. When we slide into hear in, from hear out to hear in, on one level, there are correlates and there are matches. How you speak to yourself is probably in your native tongue. If it's the people that are with me here today, where I believe all of our native tongues are English, and so we will hear English to ourselves. In your dream space, that's another hear in. Everything that happens auditorily in your dreams. Sometimes you hear music in your head, whether it's word music or sound music. That's up to you. Or maybe it's not up to you. It's what's in your auditory fields that you have access to. When you're light workers, there are times when we make contact with other dimensions. And for the most part, all of that receiving is going to be in the here in space. There may be unusual moments where you're not sure. Is that here in or is it here out? And there may be this liminal line, this subtle line between what is what that's indeterminate. It's hard to know on the scale. On a more concrete scale, it's pretty clear what's a here out and what's a here in. If you're hearing voices, is it more here out or is it more here in? When you're working within the spirit realm, if you're doing a house clearing, for example, what are the here out sensations hitting your eardrums? And what is being received by your sensing mechanism that you could label as auditory? What's a here in? It may be subtle. However, if you pay very close attention, there will be, in that fine line of muddy waters, there will be distinctions. There will be a distinction. You might even call that a third kind of hearing, that is both hear in and hear out at the same time. That you'll have to determine for yourself through practice and through simply sitting with the auditory space. The other phenomenon that many of those in the woo experience is that of buzzing in the ears. For me, I call that a hear out experience. That's a phenomena of the body that is happening in my eardrums. It's not happening in what we often call the imaginal realm inside. It is possible to hear in the imaginal realm tones buzzing there. That has, if you pay very close attention, a different quality to it. There's a different quality to the hear in and the hear out. I can describe how I would make those qualitative distinctions. However, I think it's more beneficial for each individual practitioner to dive in and explore and decide for themselves in that in-between muddy space. So to begin today, we're simply going to do the easy. We're not going to go muddy. We'll get to that perhaps or perhaps not. We'll see how it goes. And we're just going to explore the external auditory, hear out, and the internal auditory, hear in. The other qualities that arose in the early morning session was this quality of flow and this quality of rest. So let's introduce that now, since we're already having some experiences. You may move into your here in space, and you're simply just paying attention. Your awareness is there, open to receive internal auditory sensation experience. Nothing may arise. There may be a blankness or a neutralness. We can call that here in rest. That would be a rest state, here in rest. Or let's stay with the here in. You may go into the here in space, and it could be this endless cacophonous flow of stuff. It's not visual, it's auditory, and there's voices, there's songs, there's sounds, there's buzzing, there's some kind of far off distant whisper close in, there's Italian language being spoken, and it's simply what's arising in the here in field, the field. If you imagine it as this spacious field of internal auditory event. You don't have to glom onto it or label it or name it just yet, although you might. Oh, language, song, tone, I don't know. You could name all the arisings within the here in internal auditory space, or you could take a breath and a step back, and you could just watch the circus unfold in the field, bearing witness to the flow of here in. You could then note for yourself, here in flow state, flow, here in flow. So those are some options. Here in rest, here in rest, here in flow, or simply here in. The same is true for the correlate of here out. If you're in a busy street, in a city, awesome place. Or if you're in the middle of a forest, awesome place to practice here out flow. It is endless. There are endless arisings and layerings of sound in those external environmental conditions. On occasion, in the still of the night, there may be a here out rest. Tain't nothing going on. There's nothing arising externally, which could give the opportunity for the here in state to make a cacophony, perhaps. So these are just different maps, ways of mapping your experience, ways of understanding your experience, ways of dropping the two weights of feel in, feel out. We're dropping those, and we're picking up weights in another part of our meditation gym called the here in weight and the here out weight. And we're going to simply focus on and recognize those things. Other things will arise. Your knee will hurt. You'll have to sneeze. Hunger will arise. You'll see memory pictures of your favorite person. You thank all of that for sharing and thank all of that for arising. And now, just for a little while, we're just going to tweeze out the thread of auditory experience. Here in and here out. That's a lot of here out to digest. I think it's understandable and likely hugely familiar because you're a human being who understands her world. So what I'd like to do next is answer any questions and then do a mini 15-minute experiment like we did before with the field of hearing. So if you have any questions, let me know. Can I get a thumbs up? You want to dive into the, yeah, all right. So let's dive into this hearing auditory experience. I'll begin the session with the ding of the singing bowl here and end it with the ding of the singing bowl. This initial experience will be guided. Then we'll come out of the guided session and we'll talk a tiny bit or maybe a lot of bit about it. And then we'll either do a mini session or we'll move on, have a tiny break and move on to an unguided half-hour sit. Optional. You may choose to do that or not. That's up to you. So getting comfy, getting ready, have a little sip of liquid. Preparing for a 15-minute meditation exploration. You can do cameras on, cameras off. Doesn't matter. And to begin, hear out the bell. And as you breathe and feel, allow your awareness to rest on hearing what there is to be heard in your immediate environment. Focusing on sound in the room around you. Allowing your ears to soften deep in the ear canal and eardrum as you breathe. Just soften and open and receive sounds in the room in which you find yourself.
And then open your auditory awareness just a bit more, opening to see if you can receive sound outside of the room in which you sit. Perhaps that's other rooms in the house or building. Perhaps that sounds right outside your window or door. Really focusing on sound in that arena. Perhaps it's available for you in this now moment to perceive sound even further away from where you sit right now. Vehicles in the street, planes in the sky, far distant wind way outside, foghorns, boats, trucks. For just a moment or two now, for a time, rest in this far distant, receiving far distant, here out. Shifting one more time, zooming way back in to your body, to yourself. Can you hear yourself breathe? Hear yourself swallow. Perhaps even hearing your digestive system or skeletal system, or sounds of your body in general. And shifting your awareness now back to your breath. Shift your breath in such a way that you can hear it with a sigh, something more vigorous. And then sliding your awareness to internal hearing, internal talk, waiting in the fields of internal auditory event. May be restful right now, simply waiting to see what arises with internal hearing, hearing. As an experiment to focus and activate herein, silently say to yourself in the internal here space, love. Repeat it a few times, ignoring the ripple effect that they may arise from this herein activation of a willful practice of herein. Simply watch what happens just for a few moments. And dropping the word love if you haven't already, and simply rest. Rest in herein. And then resting, dropping the practice of here in, and gently, broadly allow awareness to lean into the auditory field. All layers, levels, dimensions, here out, here in, and other. Listening, listening, listening. And now take a breath, relax, relax, relax. Simply be with. And relaxing now, coming back, coming back, coming back. Take a breath. Returning, leaving the experiment. Taking a moment to move, shift, make some notes, and then we'll chat a bit. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. I'd love to hear if anybody wants to tell the tale of their experiment. Oh, Melissa, if you're speaking, you might be speaking. I see your voice moving, but not your mic is.
Oh,
there
I
you-
wasn't, but that's okay.
Okay.
Um,
Speaking of fear.
so I tend to twitch a lot when I meditate. And I guess it's just energy moving or stuck energy moving, or I don't know, but it happens a lot. And I catch myself moving forward and all that. That happens a lot more when I was doing the here in. So that was interesting. and I had a lot of my own chatter on the herein, and then was able to let some of that pass and get some rest herein. So, but yeah,
Excellent. Awesome.
yes, it was very good. I
Good.
could have just
Good.
gone on.
Great sensory clarity. Great sensory clarity.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, mine was kind of the opposite.
Let's hear.
The hear out is fine, hearing everything outside, because I don't know why, but that's easy peasy. Just to listen to the sound. But the hear in, there would be nothing. The only thing that came was when you said the word love, then I think it's Luther Vandross, love is in the air, da 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 da.
You got
The
some
song,
song,
came in, but nothing, I call it, came even when resting. It'd just be nothing.
Yeah.
Unless my monkey mind would come in and then throw a word out there, and go, oh,
Great.
well, let's try this word, and I was just like, so I have constant, I want to say, noise in my ears. I don't want to call it ringing because it's not really ringing, but I mean, so I don't know if that interferes with listening in. I don't know.
It may or it may not. It's something that arises in your auditory field.
So this is very, very, very different. I'm gonna have to play around with this one.
Great. Please do. I think it gets really interesting when we spend time. Thanks for sharing, Gay. Great, again, sensory clarity. We just did a 15-minute sit, a 15-minute experiment with two of these weights called the hear in and the hear out strength building weights. And this is what we found. It's all good. It's all information. There's no right way to do it. There's no yay. It's all yay. I should say there's no ick. It's all yay because it's what arose. It's what's true. It's what was there. And as Melissa was speaking, she got some interference, or not interference, but some information from her feel out went with her hear in. So that was hear in, feel out experience. Really interesting. So it is what it is. So it sounds like what was happening, Gay, is that there was an emotional feel in component that arose with the here in rest state, long rest state for the here in. Were there other sense gates that commented upon the here in rest?
That's probably true too, because a lot of, I call it physical, like itching or like, just different sensations in the body. It was like, okay, my eye itches, oh, now my ankle. Wait a minute, go back to rest. Feeling,
Here in rest.
Yeah, here and rest. So, yeah, you're right. There were a lot of physical along with just trying to rest.
Were there any emotional sensations that arose, or disappointment or sadness or? Great. All good, even the twitchy. So what this allows us to see is when there's chaos in our muggle world, in our experience, where do we have the capacity to rest? What's available? What's available? Perhaps for Gay, there's an availability. Perhaps there's an availability for here in rest when the external is raging. what a gift. Something to note, a potentiality to note. So my sense here now is that there's not a lot more. I feel like you guys got it. You guys understand this. This is something to explore. The next thing we'll do, we're going to take a little bit of a break. And then we'll come back and we're going to do a longer, unguided, meaning silent, not in terms of silent rest within your space, but we're just going to be like a mouse at a cat hole waiting for auditory events to arise. And we'll just see. I would love to do a 30-minute sit. Let me find. Yeah, let's take a juicier break. We're going to take a 15-minute break now. Then we're going to come back for a half-hour sit. We'll start at 12:15 and go to 12:45. So my times are speaking East Coast time. You may have to translate that for yourself. So we're approaching the top of the hour. That means for 15 minutes, we're going to take a juicy break. So really go outside, move, step away, step away. Meet me at 1/4 the hour for a half-hour sit. I won't guide. I'll bong the bong. Maybe I'll say a few words about breathe, feel, relax, and then you have some choices. The choice now that I will offer you is to stay with the auditory space, no matter what. No matter what. And see if you can strengthen the here, the clairaudience, whether it's listening externally to details or generalities, or listening internally for details or generalities. It's just 30 minutes, just a half an hour of hanging out in here space. So that's what we're gonna do. That's the plan. Any other questions? Throw at me now. Otherwise, we're on break for 15 minutes.